Hey guys, and welcome to a Let's Build in Maplestory 2. With this new game, they added a bunch of new features such as fishing, musicals stuff, life skills, and of course housing. And with housing comes building. They let you have a 25 by 25 plot land, and unfortunately it doesn't seem like a lot of people are taking full advantage of this space and all these different blocks that they're letting us play with. A lot of people just use them for trophies or for their life skills, and it's kind of a shame when it's like that, since with this amount of space and with a decent amount of blocks, plus blocks that you can make on your own and texture your own, you could probably come up with some pretty crazy and cool builds and ideas. So with that in mind, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna make something that is visually appealing and not just functional, or we'll just have people come to my house just to spam on furniture so they can get 100 trophies or whatever. So since this is like Minecraft, I figured, you know what, let's make a Minecraft-esque mini world. A place where I can make a cool scene or a cool building, as well as a cool terrain and cool setting based on like the color of the blocks that I use, the coloring of the lighting, and the background choices. And since it's October, I figured, you know what, let's make something spooky for Spooktober. And the first thought that came to mind was a spooky forest leading to a witch's house or like a haunted mansion. And since this build isn't too difficult, I figured it'd be a nice introductory build for myself to get into the hang of dealing with these weird camera angles that you're limited to in Maplestory, as well as the amount of blocks and the coloring and all these different block choices that you have that you don't have to pay for currently. And although there are blocks that you can buy with red merits or templates from the UGC, or you can make yourself, I kind of wanted to stick to blocks that are currently available to me and didn't cost anything. I felt like this would be easier for other people to do, maybe, you know, in the future if these blocks cost more money, because it looks like they might. Working with free things is better than having to work with premium blocks or blocks that would cost anybody any money, just in case someone wants to copy or use a similar idea as mine. At the moment, I'm currently making the river, as you can see. I'm trying to make it like as realistic as you can without any water, since water in this game costs money, it costs red merits, which eventually I will end up buying using the free 600 red merits you get that most people got from the opening week. And yeah, the rest of this video is pretty much just me placing down terrain blocks, building a somewhat realistic looking terrain and pathing and hills. The idea was to make it as natural looking as I could without going too overboard. The camera plays a really big part in building in this game, since it's a stationary thing while you're moving around in the world. You really need to plan around it, and I think it's okay if some of your scenery and some of the objects are slightly blocked behind terrain, but you need to be able to traverse it without the camera giving you issues and you losing your way within the paths and within the scenery that you decide to place. So when I was making this path, I had to keep that in mind, as well as make it interesting and not just a straight path right to the object that I want to show or the building that I want to make. I wanted the path to look like it was old, that it had seen many years, many weathering effects on it, that it's been damaged and broken and cracked in areas. So I went around changing some of the blocks, and eventually I'm gonna go back through it and like delete some of the blocks to make it just grass instead, which I think would give it a very nice effect. I wanted the levels of the land to be different heights and different widths, just to simulate that, like, maybe that this path was carved out a long time ago from the land, or maybe that the land has started to overtake the terrain and the path itself. I think it gives a nice effect, and it makes it look a little bit more realistic overall. I plan on creating my own trees because the trees that they're allowing us to use are horrible. They're so tiny they look more like bushes or shrubs. The grass and the flowers came out nicely. They look really well, but the trees are bad. So I decided to make my own trees. The one here isn't very good, and I decided to scrap it and rework it later on. By this point in the build, I was pretty happy with how the terrain looked and wanted to throw down some decorative blocks such as fences and grass and some bushes. The hardest part with this is that you want it to be nice looking, but you can't put too much because it overpopulates it and it looks bad. So you kind of have to find a nice mix between sparse amount and a large amount of flowers and grass blocks. Plus, also, since the theme is a spooky forest, you can't use too bright of colors like red and blue and yellow. It's a little bit too much. You need like darker colors and longer grasses. And you kind of want to spread them out a little bit more, put them near the path, maybe even on the path, just to make it look more overgrown and untended too. There's a bunch of weird blocks in this game, such as these logs, as well as some of like the spring blocks and some of the vines, and there's also some really like creepy flowers, like eyeball flowers and tentacles. And I was kind of just playing around with them, seeing if they would look nice, how they looked, how big they were, and how they would look next to one another, since I don't think there's any maps in Maplestory that have all these blocks near each other. I wanted to add a light source of some sort, like a lamp or a fire pit, something that looked a little bit more archaic, like a torch, but they didn't really have anything that looked like that, and the cooler looking lights and lamps kind of were, you had to buy them, so I didn't really want to do that. So I picked these braziers because I think they look pretty neat. They're kind of spooky. It's just unfortunate that they don't light up. So besides going back later on and fixing the path, the last thing I really needed to do was add stairs. I wanted it to look like it was kind of broken and worn, so I just didn't put as many stairs since there are no broken type stairs in the game. So I just decided, you know what, I'll just use less stairs and make it look like it's cracked or like that a clear staircase is missing. And besides fiddling with the prototype decorative blocks, the last thing I really needed to do was add the water to the river. As you can see, there's not very many choices of water types. There's a light blue, a dark blue, or that ugly green. And the green is just, it's not nice. It's kind of more of a water block for a swamp area, and it's not really what I wanted. So I stuck with the dark blue color, and I think it came out really nice looking. It's just a nice shade of blue. Unfortunately, the water blocks cost 5 merits a piece, but thankfully, because of Nexon giving away a free 600 to everybody, I had enough to buy some water blocks, and I was able to use almost all of them to fill out this river. And yeah, that's it. I think it came out pretty nice so far. There's some work left to do. Raising the ground around the river, this is kind of a priority. And making the main attraction, which is the building in the top left corner, it's going to be. But yeah, I hope you guys liked it, and tune in for the next video. Thanks for watching.